Tom.
I'm Jesse.
Awesome. And today we have an awesome little show planned. So we're going to be talking about the Truman Show, which is a comedy drama starring Jim Carrey, of course, from 1998. This was a recommendation from Jesse.
One of my favorite movies.
To me. I'd never seen it before, so I was quite excited too, because I know Jesse has talked about this movie before. So I just watched it yesterday, so it's really fresh in my mind.
Okay.
This was one of those movies that I've always heard about and just never got around to seeing. And I like Jim Carrey.
Okay.
So, but before we start, if you guys have any questions, comments, you can contact us at programs@cshlibrary.org. Questions, comments, anything, we're open. Recommendations.
Right.
If I didn't answer a question, please, we'll get back to you.
And you can stop us anytime as we're speaking out.
We would love to answer questions, so don't be shy. There's no such thing as a stupid question. So, all right, so let's dig in. So,
do you want to give a very general?
Yeah. So the Truman Show, which I have up on, I'm on imdb.com. That's internetmoviedatabase.com. That's like the Bible for movies.
Yes.
It's a library of everything you would want to know about a certain film. So the Truman Show, it came out in 1998. I didn't know it was rated PG. That's interesting.
It was.
I had no idea. And the film follows an insurance salesman. He discovers his whole life is actually a reality TV show. And that man's played by Jim Carrey. The film is directed by Peter Weir. I hope I'm saying that right. He did Master and Commander. That was Russell Crowe. That was a popular one. He also did Dead Poets Society, which is a popular film. Robin Williams, of course, and it's really, that's all worth noting. And Jim Carrey's in the film. Laura Linney, who's actually one of my personal favorite. Ed Harris is in the film. A few other familiar faces. People are like, oh, I've seen them. Like the guy from 6 Feet Under is there, and I liked that show. Peter Krause.
Oh, Peter Krause.
Holland Taylor is there.
Yes.
And some other people. So okay, why do you like this movie so much? Like, what caused you to recommend it to me?
You're going to start with me?
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll let you know my response.
This is one of those movies that I like. I find it just profoundly effective.
Okay.
I think, first of all, I think it's very inventive. I think it's very, very original. Why I like it so much is it because it sort of presaged what was the reality TV movement. I mean, this is like before Big Brother was a thing. And it's funny because one of the things that we omitted is Andrew Niccol was the screenwriter.
Yes.
And he would go on to do Gattaca, Lord of War. Gattaca's another one of my favorite films.
Lord of War, that was Nick Cage.
Nick Cage. But there's just something that's like so special about this movie. I think that it toes tonally such a kind of a difficult line between drama and comedy.
It's a dramedy. It
is.
Yeah.
And it's not Jim Carrey, and it's really goofy, over the top, Ace Ventura's self. I mean, this is one of the first movies that I saw with Jim Carrey where I said, boy, like he can really act. It's not just about slapstick, or it's not just about silly, stupid comedy. I really love the relationship between Laura Linney's character and Jim Carrey's character.
Yeah. And
I just think it's fascinating that we are spectators watching his life unravel. There's the guys in this completely normal, idyllic suburb, and everything is fine and peachy. And then as you get further along into the story, you kind of realize like things are just absolutely unraveling and falling apart. And there's this element of voyeurism where I think what's so brilliant about this movie is that it puts you in the perspective of other audience members.
Yes.
So you watch other people as they're experiencing, Truman's life, and from the inceptive days to kind of really where the story arc goes.
Right.
How he really begins to discover that his life is a lie. And I think it's so fascinating that you see how other people are reacting. You see how hooked on this drama other people are. So to vicariously live this movie through the movie with other people, I think it's sensational. I think the dialogue is really well written. I happen to love Ed Harris, not only in this movie, just as an actor, and I think that he really does a great job as the architect of this master plan. And so that's why I love it, because it was something that was so different. And I remember I saw it at the time, I was really young, and then I watched it a few years later, and it's one of the movies that really has stood the test of time for me. It's something that I can go back to, and when we had kind of discussed that you were going to be watching it, all I had to do was I pulled up YouTube and I put on one of the ending scenes, where it's the kind of speech that Christoph, Ed Harris, has with Jim Carrey. It's Jim Carrey really starts to get to the crux of his, my whole life is a lie. And there's that really poignant and touching scene between Ed Harris's character and Jim Carrey's character, the conversation that they have. Like that gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's why this movie is so important to me, because it's one of those things that it's just so transcends film. I remember how I felt when I first saw the movie, and I still feel the same way upon watching it now. So that's, I would like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so I actually really liked it. Out of all the recommendations you've probably ever given me, like before we started to do this would probably be like my favorite.
Okay.
I was really impressed with this. I really enjoyed it. I didn't know which way it would go for me, because I'm like, okay, I'd heard of the movie before, and I was like, yeah, all right, I guess I'll see it eventually. It's a really well-received movie, but I was like hooked within 10 minutes. And what I really liked about it was, I think it's such a great concept, and I think the writers really like outdid themselves, and they explored it to as much as you can, and I found myself like, there was a mystery element to it, even though it is a drama and a comedy. I was like, okay, what's going to happen next? And I love that in a movie that keeps you guessing, because I haven't watched too many comedy/dramas lately. Been on the horror movie wagon forever, but this was really good because it has there's so many layers to it. It has such like a commentary on voyeurism and people and reality TV. And this came out like right before like Survivor and Big Brother, actually, that huge TV show, which I've actually never seen, came out. Yeah, it came out a year later. There's no way the creators of that didn't watch this. So that's a really cool idea. It's fresh for the time. I feel that if maybe this came out now, it'd still be a good movie, but it really sums up an era, being the late 90s, when in a couple years, there's going to be a camera on everyone. So what was really cool about this was that like I said, there's so many layers. So I'm like, what do I want to talk about first? I think what stuck out for me was how like perfect the world was that Jim Carrey's character was living in. I mean, because this is a world that like he's a real guy and he's in, and this is not a spoiler. I'm trying to see how I could sum it up, where it's like he's a real guy, but like since he was born, he's been on camera and he doesn't know it. Like people have been watching him, but where he lives, his marriage, the town he lives in,
his vocation, his job,
it's all part of a reality show, and everyone's in on it but him. And I always found those kinds of movies interesting. I would say a movie that's actually really different is The Game, whereas one movie everybody's like in on it, on the joke, but you're not, and that's kind of frightening.
Yes. Great movie, by the way, Michael Douglas.
Yes. So I mean, like this could easily go into like a dark thriller, but I thought that was really cool, and just watching him interact with the environment and the other characters, it almost has this 1950s like picket fence feel to it. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like a lot of the acting and characters are really corny. And at first I was turned off by that, but then within a few minutes I'm like, oh wait, I get what they're going for. So that was really cool. And then, I mean, I'm not going to spoil anything, but like as the movie progresses, we'll just say like he figures out what's going on. And I'll just leave it at that. And it's really cool. I like how there were like little hints of how he found out. Because I'm like, okay, that's a big, that's going to be the second act. What are we going to do? And it was like little drops they put in there. And I liked that. I really liked his relationship with his wife. But like, it's one of those things where as the movie goes on, their relationship changes, and that was pretty interesting to see. But besides, like, oh, just a movie about a guy who's not in on it and everyone's watching, there's layers. Like, there's a romantic subplot, which I really liked. I really liked that. I thought that was really cool. But I also thought, as much drama as there is, I was laughing a lot too.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, I legit thought it was funny when, like, we would have like Jim Carrey would be walking down a street, and it's like people behind him would then like walk off as if it's a set,
right.
or whatever, or they would like run up quick. Like, it was just like you could see how everything is staged, like in a behind the scenes way. That was funny, I thought.
It just so speaks to, I think, to the innovative nature of what this movie is. I mean, stuff like that. Again, not only is it funny, but it's like you see the way that they have to engineer everything to maintain the facade of
so much detail. Yeah, and there was so much detail that went into it. Like, you know, just from like, okay, every morning he wakes up, he eats breakfast, and then he goes and buys himself like a paper and a magazine, and it's like, wait, all of this stuff is part of the show. It's like, wow, they fooled me at first, you know.
And even something like what makes his character so interesting is like unwittingly he even has this catchphrase, right? Like, good morning, you know, if I don't see you. And it's like, so he is the perfect focal point for this film, because he is himself is so interesting and he fits so well into this, like you said, this kind of quasi 1950s idyllic setting.
Right.
And the fact that he doesn't even know, he doesn't have a script, he's not reading, but it's that's what makes it so brilliant.
No, absolutely. And what I liked was that we focused on several other characters, and like, for example, like we would focus on Jim Carrey, and then we would focus on, like I said, there's this subplot. I won't give too much information on that. And we followed that person, what they're doing in their life. And then we'll cut to like the TV station, Ed Harris and his people, Paul Giamatti, I guess, in an early role. And that was really cool. And I found myself going, this movie can easily have a plot hole of like, how has he never figured it out before? But they answer that question. I won't say anything, but like they answer that question. So the movie's really smart.
Right.
Because I feel like if this fell into the wrong hands, there would be all these plot holes.
And I've like exhaustively tried to comb through what you said. Like in my mind, I'm like, wait, but does this really work? But it's
definitely
so
one that even when you finish like the movie, you want to go back and watch again to see if you miss things or certain things you can spot. And I just thought it was really creative where they took it. It kept me interested. And I think the balance of comedy and drama, it's just well done. You know, I wouldn't call it 100% comedy or 100% drama. They mix those two genres well. And I think especially when you're doing a dramedy, that can be difficult, because there are times when I've seen other comedies. I will like the Judd Apatow films, like The 40-Year-Old Virgin or Knocked Up, are films that like I'm not a fan of him, because I don't think he blends comedy and drama well in his movies, where his movies start out like silly comedies and then they take a hard left turn and they become really serious. And I'm like, this movie just drastically changed tone. But The Truman Show doesn't do that. It feels consistent, even though the tones are changing. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's so hard to pull that line, like I said, between drama and comedy without sometimes going overboard with comedy. And I just think it melds together so well and seamlessly, really. I mean, nothing's like, the jokes don't seem out of place.
Yeah. I thought the environment was really cool, because like it's smart having it be on this fictitious island, you know, and it's like they're really smart because they cover the plot hole of, oh, why can't he just get in an airplane and go somewhere else? They answer those questions, and it's really smart. So yeah, like I said, I just really enjoyed it, and I can see why this was such a hit. I think it's a nice commentary on reality TV. Like, it's one of those movies that makes you think, like, what, because there are moments where I see myself as Ed Harris's character, but then I see myself as, like, we have, like, the waitresses in the bar. And who hasn't, like, what are some shows that, like Game of Thrones, for example, is a show that people would watch, and then you see everybody, like, texting each other on social media, like, oh my God, I can't believe we just did that. That was really cool to see in the movie. Because it's like, it's obviously this alternate reality where the Truman Show like this. Everybody on the planet watches this
Right.
show, which is crazy.
And I'm telling you, I got such a kick out of the scenes when there's the montage of people's reactions to just regular viewers, their reactions to, this specific story arc to when, Truman's experiencing certain things and he starts to get closer to what's the truth.
Yeah.
And you're putting cameras on these people and they're reacting. There's almost like it's funny, but it's like there's a perverse element to it because it's like you are a voyeur, and now all I can think about is like The Bachelor and Big Brother, and
oh my god,
how entrenched right now in society we are with reality TV.
Yeah.
And this was like the forefather of all of this.
It was. Some funny scenes that really stuck out, I think, was when he went to go visit his wife at the hospital. She said she was in surgery. That's a funny scene. The scene when he just gets on the car on the bridge, that was really funny. And I like Jim Carrey a lot.
I wanted to ask you how did you feel about his performance?
This is great. I think, Jim Carrey, like Robin Williams, is an actor who is personal and can do both. Because I've seen actors where they're in comedies and vice versa. Like, you take a comedic actor and put them in scene. Like, for an example, like Taraji P. Henson. I like her. She's in more comedies, but then like I saw her in this like action assassin movie, and it was horrible. She was so out of place. And I'm like, But then like somebody like Jim Carrey, where I've seen him in other drama roles like The Number 23. And even if the movie
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless
Eternal
Mind,
Sunshine
of my favorites.
I like that one. I wasn't like crazy about it. I liked it for the one-time watch. But like he's really good. And I knew he could totally pull it off. And just also, I'm a big fan of Laura Linney. I've seen her in like everything.
She does a great job. I feel it's a very viable relationship. It's very credible between the two.
They have good chemistry.
They have really good chemistry.
But yeah, I'm certainly glad I watched it. Do any of our audience members want to?
Does anyone want to
say anything? Has anyone here seen it?
Anybody?
I don't know if they could hear me. Okay. I know.
I think Carolyn might be.
I had to unmute. Sorry.
Oh,
okay, that's fine. So
Yeah.
you see?
Yes, I watched it when it first came out,
Okay.
and then I just rewatched it because of your show today. And I have to say, similarly to what you said, Jesse, it was refreshing to watch it and to realize everything that came between when it first came out and now. There must be thousands of reality shows,
Right.
and how that was really like the precursor to all of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that is interesting to see it in when it first came out, and then so it's a 22-year-old movie now.
Right.
How much has happened? And, certain shows like The Bachelor is one. I mean, what is that? That's a show about, like, oh, you and 40 men are gonna go on some island and you're gonna pick.
How about the Kardashian Empire, which was built on reality?
And when you watch that show, I'm sad to admit that I've seen a few episodes, unfortunately. No, but it's literally like you're just watching people, and they're on the couch on their phones.
But that speaks to the diversity of like, oh my God, these people are so. What do they do with all
So imagine if like Truman's character was in on it. I mean, look what the Kardashians did. They have like makeup and pocketbook lines.
Right.
I actually have a thought for you guys.
Yes.
I have not seen the movie Boy, but isn't that the same?
Boyhood.
Boyhood is
sensational.
I love Boyhood.
But isn't it the same idea that they follow someone?
Yes. So the concept with Boyhood is the only way it's a little bit different is it was filmed over a span of 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's Ethan Hawke, I love Ethan Hawke.
Yes.
Don't get me started on Ethan Hawke. But it's Richard Linklater, and again, it's this really original concept that they used the same actors for a 10-year period of time. And you watch the evolution from adolescence to him going off into college. And it's
because that was the one thing I was thinking about while I was watching that.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Very
just,
unique.
how does he key into that? Something I can't remember what it was that made him
That he
realize
realizes something's not quite right.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like he notices, like, I mean, to me, there was there's somebody, let's just say from his past,
Oh, okay.
the girl and he started to remember her and this speech she gave him on the beach about like, you know, like everything is fake, blah, blah, blah. And it got him thinking. And then he started to see things, you know, he's driving in the car, hears on the radio, the announcer is describing, okay, he's making a turn into the, you know, to work or whatever. And that's what gets him going. And then the more he becomes aware, and the more, you know, he sees, oh, the same person is riding their bike down the street. So I thought it was cool. It's a nice little build up, because that could have been bad. Like that could have been done not well.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was done.
I mean, I'm just so impressed with how taught it was. I mean, I know you kind of spoke on it a little bit earlier, but I didn't. There was a point where, I mean, early on, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, you know, exactly how the movie was going to play out. And I thought that was great because it really does. It keeps you guessing until the end.
I will say, yeah, the only thing, I don't know if it's a critique.
I would like to hear.
The ending, I get why they ended it that way. And it's not a critique. You could actually say it would be the opposite. I want to know what does he do next when he walks through that door? What's going to happen? And I think that is, like, that frustrates me. And it goes, oh, I almost want to say like, oh, I didn't like that ending. But it's like, no, it ended perfectly. Yeah. But that just shows they made a really good character in a film where you're like dying to know what happens next.
Right. I think Truman's a very compelling character. And in a span of 2 hours, you become really invested in this character.
I'm hoping he fulfills what he was longing for throughout the film.
Right.
I hope that's what he does.
And that's the other thing that I found to be interesting about the movie itself is that in such a limited frame of time, and I know you and I have talked about this exhaustingly, is like sometimes the movie is just so long and you could tell a story within a much more this felt like it was the perfect amount of time, and it told a story, and it told a compelling story, and there is the full arc, I feel like, of Jim Carrey, starting as someone and ending as someone, and it's just a very sort of natural, organic.
It doesn't overstay its welcome. Without credits, it was like a little over an hour and a half.
Yeah. Was it that short?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I remember, I always check when a movie ends.
Okay.
And I was like,
that's even more impressive then. To tell that kind of story.
Because something like that can drag. And I was actually a little worried about that with this film. I'm like, okay, how long can we really just watch this guy? But it's not about that. It's about watching him interact with the environment.
That screenwriter, Andrew Niccol, again, I'm going to bring up.
What else did he do?
He did Gattaca.
Okay. So
Gattaca is another one of my favorite films. It's a science fiction film, and you talk about sort of predictive. This was the film that involves changing genetic traits around. If you don't like your baby's eye color, or if you don't like, you know, if your baby's going to have an illness, in theory, you can eliminate from the DNA that baby's illness. So that sort of pioneered the talk of genetic engineering, which is now, I mean, that's also a ton of stuff that you're hearing about. So I love Andrew Niccol. The guy's brilliant. He's gone on to make some stuff that isn't so great. He did In Time also with Justin Timberlake.
Never seen that. I know it. Wasn't ever seen.
And then he did Anon, which is a Netflix movie with Clive Owen, who puts you right to sleep. Very nice man, puts you right to sleep.
Don't like that.
But I love Andrew Niccol, and I think that his brilliance is really just so exemplified in the script. And he hadn't directed anything at that point. This was the first thing I think that he wrote. So,
so I mean, next week. So like, so I'll just say like final.
Does
thoughts.
anyone
have anything else they want to contribute?
Carol, do you want to have anything else to say? You don't have to.
Yeah, you don't.
Don't be compelled to.
But like, just like final thoughts. I was really impressed. This is a movie that I will be recommending to people because people ask me like, oh, what movie should I watch? And I'm always like, you know, that's such a stressful question because like, God forbid, I overthink it. But say if somebody wants a movie recommendation, I say, oh, I love this movie. They go see it, and they're like, oh, that's dumb. Yeah, I would feel horrible. But like, this is now one I could add to that because I tend to watch a lot of obscure stuff, but I feel like this is a movie everybody can like.
And you made a point about PG, by the way. So PG,
I had no idea.
I mean, it's a family film, but I think it's certainly.
I mean, it's a mature. It's really a movie for mom and dad, but there's nothing the kids can watch.
Absolutely not.
The message might go over that.
And I still think that the humor is evident enough where some of the younger people might kind of pick up on the jokes. But again, it's designed maybe more for a mature audience. But everyone can watch it, so it's a great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be talking about it for some time.
You gonna watch it again at some point?
Oh, I'm sure in the future. I would definitely love to because I thought it was funny. I legit laughed.
And like you said, how far we've come in a span of 22 years.
Yeah.
What is the landscape of reality?
Well, now
like
everybody
in another
would.
10 years?
Yeah, now everybody, there would be like a Truman app on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
And just all that stuff. But just from a filmmaking perspective, I thought it was really cool just the way they shot certain scenes, like when he's talking in the mirror and you just see like, you know, like the bar of soap or like, you know, some you know, hand cream bottle right there. Like that was kind of
It
cool.
was very cool.
I just think it's creative.
Yeah.
And,
I enjoyed the gentleman in the tub.
that was fun.
Yes.
You know, I thought that was cool when it's like, and that's important because you really need to show the environment. You know, you're trying to, this is a setting, like environment heavy film. And to go around the world, you know, you see some people in Asia watching it, and you see two older ladies on the couch watching it, like, oh, wake up, you know, like that was really
And
cool.
weren't they wearing the same robes? Right? 'Cause once they keyed in about product placement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was also really cool too. I mean, that was cool where it's like, you know, Truman's wife would just turn and mention like a product. That totally, at first I was like, what the heck are they doing? But then it made
There's
sense.
so
as it
much
progressed.
nuance to this film,
Yes.
which is what I love. And again, an hour and a half.
There's a lot going on in the film, and that it really took me by surprise.
I'm
I
glad.
really, thank you. I really did appreciate. Really did.
It's all
enjoy it.
downhill from here with my recommendations. Let me tell you.
So for next week, you know, we're gonna be Jesse's gonna be watching my recommendation. One of my personal favorites. It's Revolutionary Road. This is a drama. There's no comedy. This is a drama, and I believe it's 2008, directed by Sam Mendes, who went on to do some of the recent James Bond films.
American Beauty.
American Beauty, which is God, I
that
love
is
that
movie.
movie.
That's
Have
a
you
joint
seen
favorite.
American
I
Beauty?
have not, but now
Oh,
I
American
There
Beauty.
you go.
Joint favorite.
Kevin Spacey is great in
Love
that
Kevin
role.
Spacey.
Annette Bening, love him.
Oh yeah.
Chris Cooper, one
Chris
of my
Cooper.
favorites. But you know, so anyway, Sam Mendes, I think he's just so good with people, characters, and this movie stuck out because I'm dying to know what you think about the movie.
Okay.
If you have not seen it, I recommend it. I will hear what Jesse has to say. Kate Winslet is in it. She's one of my favorite. I'm a huge fan of her. Leo DiCaprio is in it, and it's kind of like it's a movie about the American dream, I guess, in the late 50s, and there's such a commentary on it, so I won't get too deep into it, but it is essentially about like, hey, we're married in the suburbs, literally white picket fence, you know, we're in our like, you know, late 30s, we have kids. What do we do now, sort of thing? What is life about? So it's one of those movies that it's just, there's a big question there.
Okay.
Everybody could relate to it, but just, it's very dramatic, and I could also describe it as you're just watching a couple fight, which to me is so entertaining. Because no, it's just like, I mean, I don't know if it's just me being nosy, but to watch what people argue about, and like, you know, you always see like, oh, how did these people live there? I find people and characters so interesting, you know, so this is that kind of movie, and
It almost sounds like a perfect following for Truman.
well,
I
you know,
was
it's
gonna say,
actually
it's on
funny.
the way.
Yeah, it's actually exactly. So it's another one of those life movies that I think get you thinking. But
I love Sam Mendes.
you know, so you know, we'll see. I'm definitely nervous, you know, whether you like it or not. But I think it'll create a good discussion, regardless.
Do you know who wrote it off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but it's a nice looking movie too. Kathy Bates is also in it, so it's one of those movies I could just throw on, and every time I watch it, I'm entertained. So that'll be next week.
Yes.
So join us, and thank you
Thank
for
you guys for coming out.
really appreciate it.
Does anyone else have anything to add before we go?
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you so much,
We
really.
appreciate it, everyone.
I hope you had fun.
Thank you,
We'll
and
see you
until
next
next
week.
time.
Yeah.
And again, questions, comments, that is, you contact us, programs@cshlibrary.org, and we'll be happy to get back to you.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you guys
you.
for coming out.
Yeah, have a good afternoon.
Thanks.
Bye, Carolyn.